Being Broadtail is brought to you by CPJ, distributors of Grey Goose Essences, the Harry J Recording Studio, Broad Axe Communications, 1010 Events and Rentals, and Morgan's Creek. Hey everyone, I'm Dania Beckford. Bold, sometimes brash, and since I'm the CEO of Broadtail Design, I consider myself Broadtail beautiful. It's time we make the conversations we have as women open, honest, and authentic as we navigate living our best lives. Join me as I have intimate conversations with women of all sizes, shapes, and confidence levels as we explore being Broadtail. Hi, my Broadtails. Welcome to another episode of Being Broadtail. Parenting can be a challenging journey, and parenting a child with special needs is really a who feels it knows it journey that can feel very lonely at times. My guest this week is a mother who has a child with cerebral palsy. She's also an editor, a producer, and a filmmaker. She has been very open about her challenges as she navigates raising King, and this week she's given us some insights on how amid the stares and glares, she's charting a confident parenting path. Her government name is Stacy-Ann Sutherland, but on IG we like to call her Sass. Hi, Sass.
Hey, D, what's
up? How
up?
are you?
I'm good. Giving thanks. How are you?
I'm very good. And I'm very happy to have you in my chair because you're usually on the other side where you're editing the content.
Yes, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, in life, all season,
Right.
I try with my bartending skills.
Okay.
Because our partner, CPJ, they have Grey Goose Essences. And a little birdie told me you like watermelon in the mornings.
Yes, I do.
And even though it's evening now, let's see how you like the watermelon flavor of Grey Goose Essences.
All right.
So in it's 1 part Grey Goose Essence, and then 1.5 part soda, 1.5 part tonic water.
Okay.
And then of course, because I get fancy, throw like a basil in there, with a little watermelon slice because we want it to look pretty, all right?
Yes.
All right, so I think I'm getting better at it all season. Let me see how my pour go.
Hey.
Still a little shaky, but...
Yeah, go on, man.
Yeah. And guess what? I'm kind of under the weather this week with the flu, but me make sure I never bother take my medicine because I wanted to share this with you.
Oh, dear.
So...
I hope you feel better soon. Thank
Girl,
you.
this is real life where we do get sick sometimes, right? Cheers. Thank you.
Well, I know we have to look in the eyes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Tell me.
Refreshing.
Yeah, girl.
It just, refreshing.
Yeah, man. I like it.
Let's have our vibes. Have our vibes.
So no, we met back in 2014, 2015 when I was working at the lab and you were editing.
Yes.
Yes, and as usual, you know, me was always around the office giving everybody trouble.
Full of vibes.
Find out about everybody's life while they do their work. And then in 2018, like we usually see each other in the creative spaces at the film shows and all of that type of thing because that is your scene, social media. But in September 2018, you became a mother.
Yes.
And in true Sass form, you made a whole movie of it. Tell me about being pregnant and your expectations of having a child and what was that like? And even when you were filming when he was being born, tell me all about that type of emotion.
Well, I feel like I've always been one of those persons who look forward to being a mom. You know, I'm innately a motherly type of person. Like I'm the mother among my friends. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was happy. You know, the pregnancy was a healthy pregnancy. I didn't have any complications. So I was grateful for that. I was able to work throughout my pregnancy.
9 months?
Yeah, I took the last month break because I just didn't want to, balance in the earth and get ready to, bring our life in. So I just had to take the mental break to prepare to have a child. But yeah, I worked straight up and that was a blessing within itself. And it was a smooth process. I did have a home water birth. So I didn't go to the hospital. I was in an apartment in Barbican. We had the water tub. I had my essential oils, my music, everything. And yeah, it was about 4 hours of labor. And then he came in about 10 o'clock in the night.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've been very open about all of it. You shared the video. I believe it was in an ad as well, a part of it. Did I see a part of it in
Well,
an
no.
ad?
When he was 3 months, we did take part in a JPS Energy TVC. So people would think that, but no, that was just for the commercial.
Okay. And then he started to grow. And I remember in 2021, as a matter of fact, editing Being Broadtail, I came by you and I saw him and I recognized that he was a little bit smaller than he should have been for his age. And I asked you, what's happening with King? He looks a little small. And at that time, you told me that.
Yeah, we were figuring it out. What the doctors in Jamaica had said is that he was suffering from global developmental delay, which is just an overall term because he wasn't hitting the milestones that he was supposed to.
In terms of growth?
Yeah, in terms of everything. So when I met you, that was probably a year and a half. When I met you back at the house, it was about a year and a half into it. But from he was about 9 months, we realized that things just weren't progressing. He wasn't sitting up on his own. He wasn't crawling, not meeting the milestones that you should. So we took him to the doctor and she recommended that we see a physiotherapist who then said, he has high muscle tone and low muscle tone. And he started physiotherapy since then. And then over the next 2 to 3 years, it was back and forth at Bustamante, going to, pediatric neurologists, trying to figure out what's going on, the tests and such. And I got frustrated with the system because I wasn't getting any answers. I don't feel like I was getting what I wanted for him. He wasn't getting the help that I think he needed. So as God would have it, one day I was just watching TV and I saw an ad for Shriners Children's Hospital. And I reached out to them, gave all the paperwork, everything that they asked. And then we did a telemedicine visit. And they said, they think he has cerebral palsy, but they have to, see him in person to be able to fully diagnose him. February of this year, 2024, we went overseas and then he was formally diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And he's been getting treatment up there ever since. So,
but before we even get to the final diagnosis, which is cerebral palsy, you mentioned that you were frustrated with the system and you weren't getting the help that you thought that he needed or know that he needs. And so during that period of time, I remember you were a lot frustrated. You were talking about the exhaustion, of course, of dealing with a child with special needs, plus a system that is not fully resourced or has the knowledge to give you the diagnosis that needed to help him.
Right.
And at that time, you had to still be carrying him and, going to regular places, doing errands and things like that. People who don't understand, what was that feeling like as a parent?
It was definitely frustrating. And just to track back a bit, he is diagnosed with cerebral palsy, but that's not even the final diagnosis because there's things that can cause cerebral palsy, which is still what we're trying to figure out overseas. And
let's just tell everybody what cerebral palsy is.
Right? Cerebral palsy is an umbrella term. So just like how you have autism and you have a spectrum, cerebral palsy has some term of a spectrum. But what is innate to people who have cerebral palsy is that their balance has been affected and their motor skills, more specifically their fine motor skills. So you'll have people that have cerebral palsy who can walk and can talk, who can't walk, can't talk, can't do neither, but there's a plethora of conditions that fall under cerebral palsy.
And what are some of the symptoms that King has? Does he walk?
No, so he's legally disabled. He does operate using a wheelchair. There are devices called a gait trainer, which you strap him into and he's able to take independent steps on his own, which he does. His fine motor skills are affected, so he's not able to grasp and hold things properly. So feeding himself is a problem, holding a cup is a problem, and he's also nonverbal.
Okay.
So he does communicate in his own way, but you can't have conversations with him like I'm having with you.
Tell me how he communicates.
He makes sounds, body language, facial
expressions. He's always
expressions.
smiling, by the way.
Yeah, because he's a happy
King
baby.
is a happy baby.
Yeah. I made sure of that, with everything else happening. I feel like happiness is the most important thing that can overshadow or, overcome everything else that he's going through. So, he definitely has started talking of recently because when we went overseas, one of the therapies that he's getting is speech therapy.
Right.
So yeah, he says his one words. He said red, yellow. He say mommy. He must say yes. He must say no. Like if you talk to him.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. And when you finally got overseas and realized the gravity of his disability, there are moments when you have done IG videos where I haven't actually seen one where you're crying, but I could tell you were crying before or you're about to cry. And so I know that going through something like that is very taxing because, as I've said on my podcast, that my son Zano, who is 5, he's on the autism disorder spectrum. And whereas he was evaluated to be mild on the spectrum, there are things about him because he has a divergent brain, a neurodivergent brain that works a little bit different from regular children. And so doing regular day-to-day tasks that other parents may find just as challenging or just as easy is not the same for us. So what is a day like for you raising King?
So prior to going away, it was somewhat normal because he would sleep throughout the night. He would get fed the 3 meals a day via mouth. Everything was, I guess, somewhat
And by meals,
normal.
do you mean solids?
Yeah, he was getting solids. We'd shred up the chicken, shred up the rice because it was clear that he wasn't able to do fully solid foods.
Right.
But we were under the impression that that was okay. So the biggest challenges prior to that would definitely be just the mobility aspect of it. A lot of the spaces in Jamaica aren't wheelchair accessible. So even just trying to get him around would be a lot. If I have to go to the bank, I would have to hold him for long hours and then, I have a bad back. So that just made it a lot more difficult. So I would end up having to structure my day and ensure that, I have childcare and I run my errands and it would be what it needs to be, which was sad in itself because, I want to be able to carry him everywhere with me, but it's just not practical. But he does do everything as normal as I would want. Like I carry him to the beach, he goes to birthday parties, stuff like that to still make him feel like he's integrated in society. But when we went away and he had to do a swallow study, which is a test where they basically give you different forms of substances to swallow. And they have a substance in it, I think it's called vibarium, and it lights up in an X-ray. So it shows you when you swallow what happens, where the food goes. And he failed it. So they had to put an NG tube, which is a tube through his nose that goes down to his stomach, and that's how he was feeding.
Is that how he's still feeding now?
No. We went back away and they did a surgery, which is a G tube where they do a slight incision by his stomach. And there's a tube coming from his stomach that he has to feed through. So we have a pump that connects with the feeding bag and the pump feeds him throughout an hour.
This is beginning to sound very expensive. Because you keep saying you're going away and you're coming back. How long do you stay when you go away?
Right.
And even this pump, what's the cost for it? Is it available here? The bags that you use, tell me what's going on.
Yeah, no. So the beautiful thing about Shriners Children's Hospital is that everything is free. So once they decide to take on your case, all of the medical services are free. The surgery is free. Everything that they can do to give you in terms of the supplies is all free. You have partners who will sponsor your flight. They have housing accommodation. So for the most part, they try to take that burden off of the parent because they know you're already going through a lot. And
you learned about all of this by an ad that you saw on TV?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, God just said, girl, try your luck. Try your luck, because I was tired of out here and in my head, in my spirit, I've always felt like he needs help and it's only going to happen overseas because the system here just isn't in place or as progressive enough for, kids with special needs. So, yeah, it is expensive. The pump in itself, I believe, costs about $1,500 to $2,000 US. None of these things are available. And just on an overall general, most of the devices that kids with special needs need aren't available in Jamaica. They all have to be shipped in. So even that is something that before finding out about Shriners, trying to find a wheelchair for him, they have a place that does, but it's standard. And every child has a different, disposition where they need to have a wheelchair that's built for him.
Right.
So we were able to get that at Shriners. He has his own wheelchair that's fit for him based on his bit of scoliosis and the support that he needs in his trunk. So,
but you were also telling me that the bags that you need for the feeding after you bought that machine, And the bags just became unavailable?
Well, the manufacturer has stopped manufacturing that pump.
Oh.
So there are specific bags that go with that
You mean
pump.
the pump that you just paid $2,000 for?
Yeah, girl.
US?
Yeah, girl.
Okay, great.
Yeah, girl. So that was a whole thing with Lord of mercy. What am I going to do? Because before that, it was syringes that we would have to hold up for an hour. So, get my tripod and get a sock and put it in the sock and, get a little tie strap just to, make
Improvising.
it. Yeah, improvise. And that was what were happening until his dad bought the pump. I have a friend overseas who is a nurse, so she helped me source some bags because a lot of people get them, in bulks because the government helps them in the first world country to be able to do XYZ. And I got like 4 boxes of bags from her when I went overseas. And I've been rotating those.
So a bit of support there.
Yeah.
So tell me, where are we in the process now with King's development and treatment?
So boy, every time I go over there, I'm told of something else that needs to happen. So where we're at now, he has the G-tube. He has been given the go-ahead to start eating by mouth again. So we're trying to integrate him back into that. But he has hip displacement, which is something that kids with cerebral palsy tend to happen because they don't walk as much. So the muscles in their butt don't get developed as much. So their hips shift out of place. So he's gonna require a surgery where they're gonna have to pin his ball and socket joint in his hips because as he grows, it's gonna cause pain. And then outside of that, it's just the regular physical therapy, which he will have to do to train his body to do the things that he's not used to.
Right.
Because one of the game changers for people with cerebral palsy is therapy. You just have to do a lot of therapy.
And I mean, when I called you, because we did our little own prep session before we came on set, and I called you and you said, I'm dealing with King now, so give me about 30 minutes. Was that you feeding him? So it's a 30-minute process to feed him?
So he gets, so it's very much like still having a newborn because, the newborn, you have to feed them every 4 hours at some point. He gets 5 feeds a day. Every feed lasts an hour. He gets 200 milliliters of the feed, which the first and the last is the formula that they've given us. So like, you have Pediasure, it's already pre-packed with everything. But because he has the G-tube now, which is a bigger tube, I can do blenderized feeds with him. So when you called me, I was prepping the second feed for the nurse where I have to blend up the fruits, the vegetables, the protein powder, everything. And then I got ready to come here.
So you're not only mommy, you're also a nurse right now. And you have a nurse that comes in, or you have a nurse that comes in?
Yes.
So we still see the money racking up in terms of things that you need to worry about as you raise your son.
Yeah.
But we also spoke about other people not really understanding. Because in Jamaica and throughout the world, we can have some really insensitive people when it comes to things that they either don't know or not used to. And so you've said you've had many crying nights and days just dealing with some of the things that people would say, which makes you feel a little lonely. Tell me about that.
So while I like to go on walks with King. King, he loves nature, loves the outdoors. So usually I put him in his stroller and we'd be like, walking up in the hills because we live in Stony Hill. And I remember one time, there's a particular gentleman that I'm always crossing paths while I'm walking. And one day he just felt the need to say to me, take the baby out of the stroller, man, I made the baby walk. And at that time, it was in the early phases of trying to figure out, what's going on with King. So I was very sensitive because, you have your phases where you're like, why me? What am I do for deserve this? Is what crosses fall on me or whatever the case may be. And generally who I am as a person, I don't really let what people say get to me because I know myself. But when you are drained and you're vulnerable and you're tired, you're more susceptible to those things. So it didn't make me feel that way, but then I had to grab myself and be like, but him don't know no better. Because the thing with King is, as looking on and as an outlooker looking on, he looks normal.
Right.
So it would be safe to assume that. But it's just the ignorance of people too that don't understand that disabilities can present themselves in different ways.
I've had people all the time when I've said, Zano is on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, and we say, oh, but look artistic. I'm just say, well, me pay God more for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm really not sure what you're saying.
Right.
Is it supposed to look a certain way? And for some people, it's about educating them. Because as I said, if you're not used to it or if you're ignorant to it, you don't know. So it's more of a teaching moment.
Right.
But when you're tired, when you're exhausted about people asking you questions, for me, sometimes I do snap.
You snap. Yeah, and that's normal. And you give yourself grace with that. And definitely based on what you said in your intro, who feels it knows it. And it got to a place where I figured out that maybe what I'm fighting is not a physical battle. It's a spiritual battle. So I devoted my whole life to God. I got baptized and everything when he was about 3, because I generally recognize that what I'm going through, I can't do it alone. And there are very few humans in this world that can understand. So he's 6 now. So for the past 5 years, it's me, him, and God really going through this journey at the base level, because as much as people want to believe that they can understand or they can relate, it's who feels it knows it.
Right. And, as much as we may have friends and family that are around us and a support system that does what they can for us, sometimes I think it comes off as being ungrateful when you say you feel lonely or you feel like, are you one in it? But one of the things that I remember my mother saying to me about Zano is that as much as everybody loves him, as much as we're here for you, at the end of the day, it's your child. So the things that you feel about him, others will not feel that same emotion, even though they support you.
Right.
So for instance, I saw this thing on IG where it says that parents who have children who have a disability or on any one of these neurodivergent spectrums, we operate like people who have been to war. We have PTSD because we are always anxious about something that may happen to the child or the next situation that they get into. So when we say we feel lonely or we feel unsupported, other people may feel like it's because we are going like say we want and them not help. But the way we feel is very different. And I'm sure you feel that, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I believe that, support comes in different forms. And as a person, as a female, we were humans and individuals before we were mothers. So there is a part of you, as a part of me that had to grieve the mother I thought I would have been to be able to be the mother that I am now. And it takes time to give yourself that grace, because there was a good 1.5 years of just, as I said, crying and wondering why me. And I had to get to that point where I'm just like, God gave me this journey because him knows I'm fit for the battle. So just like you said, PTSD is true. God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers because he believes that he can do this. And from you tap into that, it's much easier to just cut and go through and do what you need to do. I think a very important thing for parents with kids with special needs is to ask for what kind of help you want. Because people will give you the help they think you need, but you have to be transparent about the help that you want, whether it's okay. I need 5 hours to myself. Can you just watch him for 5 hours? I need you to feed him. I need you to change his diapers. All these different types of support, you have to advocate that. And unfortunately for some people, they do have that support system. Them have them grandmother, them mother, them friend, whatever. But some of us have to pay for it. You have to get a living nanny or a living nurse or, pay for people to come and help you support you with, raising your child, because there's also, the ignorance of people not accepting the disability that your child has. I've had people who will be like, no man, he might go grow tight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No.
That's a very common one.
Yeah.
Him definitely like a grow tight.
Yeah, man. And then you have, unfortunately.
Also, you must just pray now.
Yeah.
No, really do nothing else. Just pray alone.
Not saying prayer don't help,
no, man, it help, but that's alone if you do. No, but do nothing else.
Yeah,
don't
do nothing
pray?
else. Yeah, you have to be practical in your approach, because every child with special needs is unique. And instead of trying to project what you think should happen, it's better to just, and I think it's for parenting overall, you have to understand your child, because these kids come as humans, beings already, they know themselves. They're spirits who know themselves. It's just for us as parents to guide them on their process during life and facilitate it, yeah.
But where would you say you are now on your parenting journey?
I'm at peace with his situation. I think for me, I think more about in the future, because some things may never change. So I have to ensure that whether I'm here or not, that he's taken care of, that he has a comfortable life no matter where he is. And for me, it's just more about preparing for the future, to be honest.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you were telling me that you saw a young professional, I believe he was also in the creative industry, that had cerebral palsy and he was living a good life, thriving. And that was motivation for you. What was he doing?
He's a photographer. So King's principal actually connected me with him last year, and I shot a little docuseries of him because he has created a movement where he wants to take pictures of the disabled community to bring awareness to that and just to show that, disabled people can be talented as well, So he's fully functionable in the sense that he has a wheelchair that's like a motor, that's, like a little motor car. He has his cane that he uses when he has to walk. He does speak, but it's very muffled, so you have to take your time and listen. But it's you can't understand him if you have the patience to do that.
And how does he take the photos? Because
iPad.
you mentioned fine motor skills is one of the symptoms.
So he has a fine motor skill problem. So operating a camera, he won't be able to hold it and use the clicker. So he has an iPad that's connected to the camera, has an assistant definitely to help set up the lights, but he does all the directing. Put this here, put that there, frame them like this, turn like this, whatever the case is. So
it shows that they can actually have
very much
a thriving life with a career.
Yeah.
That they have opportunities financially from.
But to be fair, he lives in the UK.
Also.
So, yeah, he lived in Jamaica and moved away when he was 9 because the same thing, his mom just didn't think there was much help for him here.
And what would you want to see happening in Jamaica as it relates to support for children with disabilities and even for parents? Because I've been thinking about a whole lot of things. I mean, I think that autism is one of them that is at the forefront right now, where a lot of parents are now getting their children evaluated just to see where they are, if they're neurodivergent, if they see any signs, and we're talking about it more, but we still don't understand or have the resources that these children actually need. Where are you in terms of, is this something that you're able to take on, want to take on? Would you want to rally a group? How are you feeling? Because me know say you're Miss Advocate, so I know you have some things thinking about.
Right. I definitely would want to create some type of movement. I mean, for the parents, I definitely feel like they need some type of support group, an organization that just caters to helping parents understand how to care for kids with special needs, which definitely would have to involve the government seeking funding or partnership elsewhere, to have trained individuals overseas to come and, show parents how to manage it. And then definitely for the kids themselves, which doesn't exist, it's like a one organization, a hub, because a lot of the times these kids have so many different conditions within their special need that, okay, you have to go to one doctor to get this, you have to go to our next doctor to get this. And where in the States, they have all of that in one hub, so they treat King as one case. They have their meetings, and it's the speech therapist, the occupational, the physical therapist, all of them are there, and they're going through what his progress is, what he needs, and then they create a plan of action. That's not the case out here. It's almost like you have to get up and figure out this, figure out that, already in a system that isn't educated on the wide plethora of special needs that exists. So it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of money, but it would be, they have to care, and unfortunately the system is like most things, it's a business.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the disabled kids fall by the wayside because it's either too expensive or they just don't have the resources.
You say you're at peace now, and I actually see the progression with the things that you have been posting from when you found out until now. But I remember there was a time when you said that persons were saying that it was your fault, or the parents' fault, while something was wrong with King.
Yeah.
And how did you take that? And what do you say to those people now?
Look at me now. But I like to feel my emotions. I'm not someone that likes to bottle things up or resist how I'm feeling. I just cry it out and move on, cry it out and be like, they don't know what they're doing. They probably think that what they're doing is the best, or whatever emotions or perceptions they have of me as an individual. It's on them. It's not a me problem, because I know that I'm doing the best, and I know that God has been blessing me since I've had King.
Right.
Yeah, he definitely, there's been a shift in my life with just work and just everything since I've had him. So I know that part of me being a parent for him is part of my purpose. And just like how I was telling you earlier, your vivacious personality and the powerhouse that you are is part of the reason why you are the mother for Zano. The kids choose their parents before them coming to earth. Like, he chose you because he was like, yeah, she can manage me.
Right.
And it's the same thing for me. So that gives me peace in knowing that, okay, if God present the space where I can burn down, blaze a fire through Babylon and make them know, say, listen, and they need for advocate funds, allocate funds, you need to do X, Y, Z. When the time comes, I'll be able to do that. I have been having conversations with different people to create even the same hub, but the reality is that it's just going to require time and money. Yeah.
And opens another tab for you to have something to deal with. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of support for any movement like that.
For sure.
But I'm sure you're going to get it. Being at peace now and seeing other parents who may have just joined the parenthood or parents who are also just finding out that they have a child with a disability or a neurodivergent child. What would you say to them based on the things you've learned in the past 6 years?
I would say give yourself grace. Some things take time to balance out, but definitely you have to be proactive and try and find the resources and the help, because we are in a world now where everything is accessible on the web. So you have to do your research to try and figure out, okay, I need to get this type of specialist. I need to have him see this. I need to, you can't give up, because we are advocates for our kids. And definitely create balance in your life, because being a parent in general, it's draining. It's a lot. But being the parent of a special needs child, it's 3 times as draining. It's 3 times as a lot. So you have to be unapologetic with your self-care, your me time. For me, I try to at least once a month go to Negril for the weekend, go to Portland for the weekend, just to be able to catch back myself and pour into me, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So it was hard at first because, as a mother, you never stop mothering. Yeah.
And you have mom guilt.
Of course, you have mom guilt.
This time that I want for myself, I'm away from my child and I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
But you actually need that time so you can regroup with yourself so that you can be the best mommy.
Yeah. Figuring out what works for you. If it's a one day at the beach, if it's a night out with friends, whatever works for you, you have to figure that out to be able to balance, because you will burn out and it's not going to serve the child or yourself or the people that you love, anything if you're not 100.
Right. And now I know that you're already in love with my affirmation cards.
Yes.
You have bought many.
Yes.
For your friends. And you even told me that one day at work.
Oh, wow.
When you were leading the motivational speech, I think in the morning.
Yeah.
And everybody was supposed to choose one. And well, it's the Being Broadtail affirmation cards for women.
Yes.
And a male chose one. And that male chose one that was talking about his female parts, which he does not have. And it was a big joke in your motivation thing. But because I know you already love it, let me see if the magic works with our conversation.
All right.
I want you to choose one. Choose one, anyone, you can't say which one.
Okay.
And you're going to read it and see if it is something that you want to get to, something you've gotten over, or something you're already dealing with. Okay? All right. We're trusting the magic. What does it say?
Oh, wow. I openly embrace compliments after all. I am worthy of them. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. As I'm about to tell you, I love you here.
Oh, thank you, love.
Right. Tell me about this new look, because I know you're wearing curly natural hair. So what's happening there?
So stress is real. And apparently my hair is thinning out because of my lack of sleep. I have been operating on like 3 to 4 hours of sleep for the past year and a half, which was normal because, in production we work long, but I guess with the added stress of having to manage everything that's happening with King. Yeah, so I say, you know what, I'm going to give my hair a little break so I can, take some prenatals and balance them back. And I just went to the hairdresser yesterday and I said, come girl, we have some bundles. We're going to do something nice with a bang. And she just did her thing.
It's nice. I really love it. Love. But I know the stress and the hair situation because in season 2, when I had half of my head shaved. It was nice. It was a great style, but it's because my head side did on your mouth.
Yeah,
I'm never
girl.
really that all on pan when I all on pan me. So I turn it in a style. So yes, the stress is real and it sometimes shows out in our physical appearance. But I also have more things for you for your
Gifts?
relaxation when you go to your Portland and when you go to your Negril or friends at CPJ. They give us this nice tote bag, and inside of it you have lots of gifts. So you have your watermelon Grey Goose essences. You have one more pack of your affirmation cards where you can either keep or give it away to a friend because I know you already have a stack for yourself. You have for the skincare a gift certificate from Morgan's Creek so that when you're up on the beach, your skin can glow because I know you and King always hitting up the beach.
Yeah.
And a couple of other things in there from Grey Goose. I hope you enjoyed
Thank
doing
you,
your
love.
self-care.
I appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome.
Big up the sponsors, them, yeah?
Yes. And also, all part things to talk about with money.
Yeah.
One all part things to talk about with money. Right? And I want you to touch my ZG plant.
Girl, you know, says because of you may have them now. I have a whole heap of ZZ plant at my house now. Yeah, girl, come. The purple. Yes.
Right. Throw some money. So we can spread that wealth because they say that it's the money tree. And even though we're friends in the mommyhood, we're not friends in other posing. Right? Because you say you're at peace, because you're feeling good about where you are in your parenting journey, I know that you're ready to give us your very best pose.
Yes.
And so now we're going to deal with our confidence pose because we want the mummies out there for us to say, we might be a mummy, but we're not cool. We're still at,
you're not supposed to look like what you go through, you know?
We're not supposed to look like what we're going through at all.
Yes.
And so let's do this pose off, girl.
I'm ready.
Am I ready?
Yeah.
Miss Cupid, hello, you fire bow on a row. I feel it all bow, back to my elbow. I'm too late, hello, you fire bow on a row. I feel it all bout.
I want to thank my listeners and viewers for tuning in to another episode of Being Broadtail. Stacy reminded us that parenting needs a community, whether or not you have a neurotypical or neurodivergent child. She also reminded us to trust our instincts and be patient with ourselves and those around us as we seek to give our children their very best lives. We have another interesting guest next week as they share with us their own confidence journey. So, see you next week. Same time, same place, with the spirited essence of Grey Goose on Being Broadtail.